The Republican Party's not going to pay $1.5 trillion to illegal immigrants coming into our country. We're not going to do that. So the shutdown continues. It's a Democrat shutdown. It's a Schumer shutdown because his career has failed and it's over.
That's President Trump blaming Democrats for refusing to come to the table to reopen the federal government and restore pay for federal workers. The shutdown, by the way, entering its 18th day with no off-ramp in sight. Joining me now to discuss it is Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Do you see an end in sight, or is this going to go on for a while?
Well, welcome to day 18, as you mentioned. The Schumer shutdown programming includes Hate America rallies across the country, sponsored by pro-left billionaires who hate America so much that they want to see it destroyed from within. And nothing says serious political discourse like dressing up like a Pikachu and dancing around. But what we see is folks like Schumer and AOC and Bernie Sanders who are pushing this far, far left agenda. Now, we know why AOC and Bernie Sanders are doing it. They legitimately believe it. They cannot stand America. But you've got people like Schumer, who has been, I don't want to call him a moderate Democrat because he's been anything but at least he's not a Marxist or a communist, but he is caving to this party because he is petrified, actually terrified that he is going to get primaried by the likes of AOC. So they are catering to this far left wing of their party. But do I think it's going to last longer? I think as far as what this administration is doing with actually having reductions in force, that's going to decide whether or not the Democrats want to continue to play this game. But the fact is that this administration is continuing to work, as you see, every single day.
Do you think that if the administration continues with the reductions in force, federal layoffs, that's something that could potentially backfire? I mean, we had plenty of shutdowns during the Obama administration. There were no government employee layoffs then. Will voters start to blame perhaps Republicans in the White House for all this?
Well, I mean, it depends on whether or not the risks are justified. I think, nobody can argue that we don't have an overly bloated bureaucracy. And I think, using the tools that are available to them and going in and using a surgical tool to make sure that we've got people, if they're a non-essential employee, that's the first question. I think, small business owners and business owners in general would ask that, why do we have non-essential employees? I think, we're going to be looking at that, but we are at a $37 trillion debt. And we have got to figure out how to cut down our spending. And I think Democrats have had a lot of crazy programs. Their fight right now to have $1.5 trillion added onto a clean continuing resolution that's a budget item for 6 weeks is absolutely ridiculous. But it shows the level of craziness that this party is showing. And where are those dollars going? They're going to fund folks who should not be in our country or here illegally. It's going to force us to use taxpayer dollars to fund their health care. It's looking at people who don't want to work that should be working, and it's forcing us to pay for their health care. It is sending billions of dollars in foreign nations to help with DEI programs in crazy Green New Deal scams. That's where their dollars are going. And as much as they sit here and talk about healthcare, they're also, with this government shutdown, wanting to shave $50 billion off of rural healthcare. This is not about healthcare. This is about keeping power. This is about, sucking up to a far left base to be able to maintain that power. But I think the American people can see through it. I see this is why you saw the elections in November come out the exact way that they did.
Some Republicans have said, hey, let's negotiate health care. We got to open up the government first. Do you think that there should be a conversation over how to deal with some of these expiring Obamacare credits after the government opens up?
You need to open up the government. If you want to be serious and you're so frustrated, I mean, I'm looking at this No Kings rally. If you are so, serious about wanting to give Trump more power, please, by all means, keep the government shut down. Keep Congress from coming to work because you don't want to actually have to have a compromise. The compromise for Republicans was to actually vote for a clean CR. A lot of us wanted to see, cuts in spending. That doesn't happen with a clean CR. But do we need to come back and talk about healthcare? We absolutely do. It's one of the largest, if not the largest spend that we have in America, and it's not working. Ever since the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, what you've seen is increases in profits by insurance companies of 230%, while families are paying on average 86% more in premiums. And by the way, these same insurance companies that are getting these record profits are also denying a third of all claims. So the dollars that is happening through these tax rebates are not helping families, but they are helping the insurance companies. And I think, yeah, as you have seen, the more money the government pumps into it, you've seen quality decrease, you've seen access decrease, and you've seen costs go up. We absolutely have to have a conversation, but we need to open up the government first.
You mentioned the No Kings rally. You have a bill in Congress that would expand the federal government's powers to investigate financing of basically protests that turn into riots or rioting. Critics say it would let the Justice Department investigate peaceful protesters, putting a stamp on free speech. What do you say to them?
Well, I think their definition of peaceful may be different than yours and mine and the American people. When you see people that are targeting our ICE agents and shooting at them, I don't think those are peaceful riots. But what we have found is they are being repeatedly organized and funded by probably the same people. And if we have to be able to expand the powers of the federal law enforcement to be able to go after and see who is actually organizing these violent riots that include things like military gear, military rifles, in the same types of reading papers that they're sending out to folks. So these are obviously organized, and you're seeing the same people over and over again at these riots. And I just want to thank Pam Bondi in the AG's office for actually going after some of them, including these shooters at the Alvarado ICE facility in Texas. You know, they are actually forcing them to be accountable. These shooters, which is something that we didn't see during the Biden administration.
Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a great weekend.
You too.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.